Ready. Play.
Welcome everyone to Talking Tennis. It's our weekly WTA show, which will be running all the way up until Wimbledon, hopefully, most weeks. Absolute privilege to host, absolute privilege to be speaking with you and with our guest, Hanlon Walsh. Hanlon, how are you doing? Where are you coming to us from?
Hey, Nick, I'm doing well. Thank you. I am coming from Birmingham, Alabama, in the southeast part of the U.S., and I actually just got back from Charleston, South Carolina, from the Charleston Open late last night. So excited to talk all things WTA in Charleston.
Oh yes, man on the ground. That's what we like to hear. You've got some access to some really good matches there.
Yeah, definitely.
With the sound of it, so that's pretty good. Hanlon, before we kind of talk a bit of tennis, I think this is your first time appearing on the Talking Tennis channel. So for those of our viewers who maybe aren't familiar with your work, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, who you write for,
Sure.
What your work's like?
Yeah, so I write for the Tennis Tribe. I actually work full-time in PR, but on the side, I write for the Tennis Tribe, which is a doubles-focused media outlet, alongside Will Bocic, who's the founder of the Tennis Tribe, and he runs it full-time. But I write articles mostly focused on the doubles tour on the ATP and WTA, and then also help support the Doubles Only podcast, more of in a co-host type role. Will Bocic, who I mentioned, is the host of the Doubles Only podcast, and we've been able to have a lot of great guests on over the years, just talking doubles. We actually recently just spoke with Pam Shriver and Danielle Collins, Desiree Crouchick, and several players and coaches in Charleston as well. So a lot of good doubles conversations going on right now.
And that's really important in tennis. I think I'm certainly guilty of this, but a lot, even established tennis fans, get far more caught up in the singles, and the doubles tour has got some absolutely great stories there. And some really exciting matches going on there. I would say for me, WTA doubles is in a really interesting place. You've got these 2 or 3 teams who are kind of at the top. You've got Krejcikova, Siniakova, obviously. You've got Goff and Pegula. There's the Japanese pairing as well.
Yeah, Aoyama and Shibahara.
Yes, I was a bit worried about pronouncing that.
Oh, yeah. I probably butchered it, but I think I'm getting it right more the longer I do it. But yeah, I agree that women's doubles is in a great place right now. And I think, having a team like the Czech team of Krejcikova and Siniakova, who's really just dominating, I think it's great for doubles to have a marquee team like that, that's just raising the bar for everyone and getting more people talking about doubles in general.
Yeah, and it's nice that we've got some, that they also include top-ranked singles players as well. That there's a less of a specialization happening, that we're kind of going back to maybe the days of the 70s and 80s where players were playing both, with Krejcikova, Pegula and Goff being in there. Okay, Krejcikova isn't quite back in the top 10 yet, but in my head, she's kind of top 10 singles.
She's power top 10 right now, I think, for sure. And it's funny that you mentioned that too, because Pam Shriver, when we were talking to her in Charleston, she actually mentioned this, that she really admires Goff and Pegula and Krejcikova for having that kind of old school mentality of playing singles and doubles. And it's great to see, big names like Goff and Pegula, especially for the American tennis fan base. And I think just the household name that Coco has really globally too is great for doubles. So it's good to see top players, play singles and doubles.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk a bit more about what happened in the doubles then, because I know obviously the champions were Danielle Collins and Desiree Crouchick, right?
Yes, it was a really exciting final too, and I also follow singles really closely too. So I'm happy to chat about both, but doubles is what I mostly cover right now, anyways.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll probably hype it up, but let's talk about Charleston as a tournament before we kind of get into maybe some results. So. Charleston's an interesting one because obviously it's kicking off the clay season on the WTA side. It's a 500, was back in about 20 years ago, was probably what we would now call a 1,000 status. I think it was tier 1 or tier 2 back then. So it's always got a little bit of prestige around it, but it's this weird kind of halfway house between a hard court and a full clay court, as you would get at Roland Garros. And I get the feeling that even people in the established tennis world don't really know sort of where to place it. How do you see Charleston as a preparation tournament for Roland Garros? How relevant do you kind of see it as being?
I think it's a great event. It has such a great reputation. And I'd heard, nothing but positive things about it for many, many years, and was excited to make my first trip in person there this year. So everything that people say about it is 100% true, just about the quality of the tournament. But in terms of the preparation and where it sort of falls on the tennis calendar, Nick, I agree with you that it's, halfway house is kind of an appropriate way to put it. We spoke with Bob Moran, the tournament director, and he thinks it's a great, launching pad for not only U.S. tennis players, but anyone who's been playing from the Sunshine Double and is about to make the journey over to Europe for the clay swing. Charleston, with the green clay, and you're still in the U.S. with nice, sunny, warm weather. It's kind of a good launching pad before, the thick of the clay season and the slower red clay. So I think in that respect, players really enjoy it as a way to dip their toes into the clay before they head over to the European swing for the next several months.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that perspective. It's probably less of a shock. I think it's probably good to have that transitional point. As you say, for American tennis, having a versatile player, getting started on clay is really important. I've also heard good things about Charleston as a place to visit, particularly when talking to...
You should definitely visit if you get
It's up there. It's up there. I've certainly thought good things when I was sort of watching on TV the last couple of years. And it does tend to be very much a very positive fan experience for those who visit. So,
nice old school, Southern hospitality, and just the staff and the volunteers, and just from the media perspective too, everything. They take really good care of the media, and I think just really do a good job to make sure that they're, putting their signature on every aspect of the event. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a really cool event, but I actually think that whilst there's probably I see some complaints on Twitter around, well, some people are maybe more concerned about the way the WTA clay season is structured, and that they're not playing on clay that's very similar to Roland Garros until Rome at the earliest. And there's not many of the 250 status, and sort of up to that point, you've got Charleston, which is green clay, kind of this halfway house as we talked. You've got Stuttgart, which is this weird indoor clay, and then you've got Madrid, which is high altitude clay. I don't think Charleston's really contributing much to that as a problem. I think it's a good starting point, as we've kind of already said, and it's also not complete. I talked about being relevant before, like Jabeur kicked off a very good clay season off getting to the final in Charleston last year. It was just unfortunate drawing Magdalene in round one of Roland Garros that kind of meant it didn't translate to the one everyone really cares about. And likewise, I think a few years back, 2017, Ostapenko got to the final the year she won Roland Garros. So yeah, I'm kind of going off of a monologue on this, but that's kind of how I kind of see Charleston as well. Is there anything from the Charleston event that we're kind of looking at, seeing it as a building block as the start of the clay season, that what kind of stories are you spotting it setting up, Hanlon?
Well, that's a good point, Nick, that you mentioned about Ons. Of course, she was a fan favorite all week. I think anywhere she goes, she's immediately a crowd favorite. But the final yesterday between Jabeur and Bencic, and both of them I think are big. They're big favorites in Charleston from the crowd. Obviously, Belinda won it last year. Ons won it this year, but the crowd was very pro Ons. But I'm interested to see, since she's had a slower start to the year, been fighting some injuries here and there. I'm interested to see, with this momentum from winning Charleston, where Jabeur kind of fits into the mix with, the quote unquote big three on the WTA that people have been, there's been some chatter with Rybakina, Iga, and Sabalenka. And, for much of 2022, Ons was the second best player behind Iga, and she's had a little bit of a slower start to 2023. So one of the bigger stories that I'm interested in following is just where Ons fits into the big three chatter, and if she can back up the impressive clay season that she had last year as well, given that the field, I think, is a lot stronger this time in 2023 than it was in 2022.
Yeah, I would agree. I think obviously the winner's always going to set up where this is going. And you're right, with the context of Ons' slow start due to injury this year, that's kind of she's kind of put her name back in the mix of saying, hey, I'm still here. That's what I'm kind of feeling like. Yeah, the context of the WTA Big Three going into clay, with Swiatek, Rybakina, and Sabalenka. I mean, Rybakina and Sabalenka can play on clay, and they've shown have having good results on clay. But I'm wondering whether a more accurate sort of clay Big Three would be Swiatek, Krejcikova, and Jabeur.
Yeah, I agree. I think Krejcikova and Jabeur will be two heavy contenders for any clay tournament that they enter over the next few months.
Yeah. And let's face it, I mean, like we had, I think Ons probably, I know it probably hasn't, especially for some people, we've got to see how she does when she comes up against the names we've mentioned, those kind of four people from both sides of the, both different groups. But I'd say that the way she won this title was pretty impressive. I mean, beating Kasatkina, which was a bit of a battle, that semi-final. Rain delays all over the place, really disruptive momentum. And then that final against Bencic, I mean, she really turned it around with that performance. Did you, I know you might not necessarily been able to catch it, but you might live at the event, but did you manage to catch any of that final?
I did, yeah. I was I saw probably I saw the full second set, and then I saw about half of the first set. And yeah, it was really impressive from Ons. I think just she played, her best tennis on some of the biggest points. The first set tiebreaker was just so incredible to watch. I'm sure you probably saw highlights of her tweener, and then the drop shot. I think it was like a break point or a set point at 5-4 that she fought off and won. Just an incredible point. Just showed us her athleticism and charisma and charm and variety. Really everything. I think we got the full Ons experience yesterday in Charleston.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I watched that. I was watching the final and saw the tweener kind of live, and I did sort of audibly shout. I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, you should have heard the press room. I happened to be in the media center when the TV was on, and everyone just erupted in awe of just Ons' incredible hands and athleticism.
Yeah, which we've known about for ages, and I'm glad
there
to
we
have
go.
her
Yep.
mix. Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
wow.
Probably the only WTA player who really goes for those kind of shots and really is able to pull them off as well.
Yeah, and I mean the impressive thing was not only did she make that, and then she hit her signature drop shot for a winner on the next ball. So it was definitely the shot of the year so far.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be on those highlights reels for the rest of the year, I'd say.
Ooh. Yeah, for sure.
So that's that was exciting. Anyway, how do you reckon? I mean, obviously that it did help get her back to back into the match. Probably started pushing the momentum back in her favor. How do you think Belinda Bencic is going to look back on that match? Missed opportunity, or?
I think, I mean, in some ways, yes. There were certainly some points that didn't go her way at the end of the first set. Maybe some chances that she could have or should have taken. But overall, and right before I left Charleston, I was able to catch the Belinda Bencic press conference, and she was in really positive spirits, much more so than I would have thought. So she seemed like she, was really pleased with her efforts this week. Obviously, she had a big win over Jessie Pegula in the semifinals. So I think she was happy to be back in the final again. Obviously, the outcome didn't go her way, but you can tell she and Ons have just a great relationship and a lot of respect for each other. They had some really nice words and nice moments during the trophy ceremony. And Belinda, like I said, impressed. Overall, she seemed in good spirits. So I think she'll take positives from this week for the most part.
Yeah, I think that's good to hear, actually. And I think she's, she shouldn't be too hard on herself. I think a lot of that momentum shift was down to Ons more than her necessarily. So it's a positive loss, and I agree that whenever Pegula was really impressive, considering Pegula you have to be having a really good day to beat Pegula most of the time. I don't think
Pegula's give it to you.
Yeah, she's not going to give it to you. She doesn't have many bad days, and even then, she's one of those players who can win on a bad day. So, I would say, overall positive. Hopefully, this is for Bencic. This is the year that she kind of maybe makes a bit more headway at Roland Garros, because I was surprised when I looked this up after the Charleston final that she's never been past the third round.
That is shocking. I feel like Belinda is someone who has really underachieved at majors. It's kind of shocking that she hasn't won one, to be honest. I think she's been around tour so long. It's crazy that she's only 26, because I think she just bursted onto the WTA scene so early, and she's had a lot of big signature career wins. Obviously some of her best tennis has come at the Olympics or Billie Jean King Cup when she's playing for Switzerland. But I'm really interested to see if she can put it together on the major stages, because she certainly has the talent. And I think, the field is there's a pack at the top starting to break away a little bit. So I'm interested to see is Belinda part of this pack, or is she going to be on the outskirts?
She's got a lot of potential to be part of the pack. I think she's been in 3 WTA 500 finals this year, and a WTA 500 is a really hard tournament to win at the minute because it's usually stacked draw. I think
yeah. We were looking at the entry list for Stuttgart yesterday after Charleston, and seeing the names, Paula Badosa in qualifying, and just anyone who's ranked like outside of the top 25 playing qualifying. I know that was similar in Doha earlier this year too. It's absurd.
Yeah, it's on the one hand, it means that you kind of almost get big tournaments on a regular basis, but on the other hand, obviously you get less opportunities to see big name players. So swings and roundabouts. But I would say that I'm usually much more excited for WTA 500 than an ATP 500.
Especially as of late, the past few months, WTA 500s have been pretty explosive.
So there's plenty there. Are there any other stories from Charleston in the singles before we talk about the doubles? Any other stories from the Charleston singles that kind of catching your eye?
Yeah, no, I think the other one is, and this was a stat that was circulating throughout tennis Twitter, you probably saw, but it was the first time that all top 4 seeds had advanced to the semifinals since 2001 or 2000, I think. And I think that's a bigger sign of more stability at the top, and what I mentioned earlier about this core pack of players breaking away a little bit. It seems not only, outside, and none of the, the big 3 that we talked about that, some are speculating, Iga, Rybakina, Sabalenka, none of them were in the draw, but Bencic, Jabeur, Pegula, and Kasatkina were all the top 4 seeds. They all advanced to the semifinals, and I think it's just another great showing for the WTA. And then it was another really classic final. We've seen some really good finals this year. Obviously, the Australian Open was the highlight, I would say, but this Charleston final was a close second in my book.
Yeah, I remember. I was really excited for this Charleston final going into it because I remembered how good that Bencic Jabeur final was in 2022. And yeah, they really did deliver good entertainment. I mean, that crowd was so engaged with the match, particularly with everything Jabeur was trying to pull off. So yeah, I agree. And I mean, Bencic and Krejcikova, who are currently ranked 11 and 12 in the world at the minute, in my head, I treat them like top 10 players.
I would agree.
I think I think it probably wouldn't be long before they're both back in, probably expensive of Kasatkina and maybe Sakkari.
That was going to be my next question. Who would you bump out of the top 10 right now for in place of those two?
Sakkari and Kasatkina, I think. Much as I like Kasatkina as a player, I do enjoy watching her when she's playing well, but it's just not, she doesn't do it consistently enough at the minute.
Yeah. And Sakkari is, she, I think we all know this, but a lot of it just seems to be mental at this point.
Yeah.
So she can have, good weeks and bad weeks, but that seems that the later stages of events is when she struggles the most.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm quite happy enough having, Kvitova back in there. I think that was a great result for her from Miami. The entire top six deserves it right now. I think even with Garcia and Goff in there.
Yeah, Garcia is another name. I'm curious to see how she does over the clay season, because it seems that her 2023 has been a little bit quieter because she ended 2022 on such a big note, winning the WTA finals, and then since then it seems like lately we haven't heard her name very much.
She has been lacking that little bit of an edge recently. I will agree with you there. All right, so I think maybe a lot of the people watching this didn't catch the Charleston doubles final. It was an epic scoreline. Was it 12-10 in the final set tiebreak?
It was actually 14-12.
14-12. I knew there was 12 in there.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah. Do you want to talk us through maybe what happened, and are there any highlights out there on YouTube that people could go and catch?
I haven't checked YouTube, but I know that the WTA and the Charleston Open Twitter account both have the match point clip on their feed, and the WTA also has some Instagram highlights on their feed too. But it was a terrific match. The weather conditions were really challenging. It was damp and kind of cold and rainy a little bit at the beginning. And Juju Olmos and Ina Shibahara, they had never played together before, but they had played against each other a lot and knew each other growing up in California. So they, were very familiar opponents. They were the top seeds, and they just came out. They came out of the races quickly. They were intentionally, trying to push Danielle Collins back and not let her dictate the points from the baseline. So they were very strategic about throwing in heavy top spin lobs. They got into just a lot of cross court exchanges and did a good job of executing their game plan in the first set. I think Des and Danielle came out a little bit cold too. So they were down, Des and Danielle were down 6-0, 3-1, and they lost a few crucial no-ad games before that. So in doubles, obviously the no-ad scoring really, the margins are so slim. And if you lose a few of those, then, you could be in trouble early. But luckily, they ended up turning it around luckily, I say for the American fans, because the crowd was very pro Collins and pro Kralchik. But they turned it around. They told us this in their press conference. We actually got to talk to Danielle several times throughout the week, and she was such a delight to hear from. But they just decided to be more aggressive at the net. They were calling more set plays. They were moving and poaching more to get Juju and Ina thinking a little bit more of the net and catch them off guard. And it seemed to work. And I think Danielle really loosened up a little bit. Her ground strokes were, more consistent. She was being more aggressive at the net in the second set, and they just fought and kept fighting. And they fought off 2 match points in the match breaker as well, and ended up winning 14-12 on a long point that I think Danielle closed out with the forehand. So it was a really exciting finish, and I think it was a great display of doubles. The crowd was very energetic, and it was well attended too, despite the difficult weather. And we got to talk with Danielle and Des and Juju and Ina in press conferences yesterday, and both teams, despite the outcome, seemed like they were in good spirits and thought it was a great match.
Yeah, and let's face it, it was. And I think, even losing by 14-12, I mean, like, that's gutting, but you were close, you had a good day anyway. So a bit like with Bencic, sad to lose, but not a lot else wrong, if that makes any sense. Is there any signs that Collins and Kralchik could continue this partnership, or is this going to be a one-off?
That's a good point. We asked them that in press, and Kralchik alluded to the fact that they will definitely play doubles together again. And I think it helps that they're really close friends. And this is something that Danielle mentioned throughout the week when we talked with her on the podcast, is that, doubles is such a mental health outlet for her, an escape. She loves playing with close friends like Desiree, who can lift her up during, tough weeks on the singles circuit. Obviously, Danielle didn't have her best week in singles this year. She lost to Shelby Rogers in the first round, but she stuck around to play doubles with Desiree, and they ended up, winning all 4 of their matches in third set tiebreakers, which was, equally as exciting and also probably excruciating for them at times. But I think, they made the Wimbledon semifinals last year, so it wasn't the first time that they had success as a team. But then at the same time, Desiree Kralchik plays regularly with Demi Shores, and they've got a title to defend in Stuttgart in a couple of weeks. So I'm interested to see if if Des and Demi keep playing together throughout the year, or if she's maybe having second thoughts after doing so well with Danielle, if they become a more consistent partnership. Because Danielle did mention throughout the week that she wants to focus more on doubles, as regularly as possible, just given the social and mental health benefits that it brings to her. I think it just gives her peace of mind and a sense of camaraderie on the court that you don't get in singles.
Yeah. And I suppose with that, then, again, doubles can be a bit of a sort of a magic roundabout of partnerships that you see people changing a lot. I mean, like it's we've only really, even like Krejcikova and Siniakova, although they've been a very solid partnership, they've both played with other people as well every now and again. But they're kind of the exception. It's very rare to see a sign of a set doubles team like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kravchuk and Olmos, despite the fact they are top 10 doubles pairing, that could happen. That does seem to happen on a fairly regular basis, especially since Kravchuk is clearly a very strong doubles player. Funny enough, whenever talked about, I always think, how is she? Obviously, she's won 500s and has had some success on the tour, good results. Otherwise, she wouldn't be top 10. But I would be, but I was surprised that she's not. She's only been to one major final in doubles, but she's a multiple mixed doubles champion.
She is, yeah. She's won 4 mixed doubles majors, which is, it's kind of rare to have a mixed, such thing as a mixed doubles specialist in tennis, just because the opportunities to play mixed doubles are so rare. But Desiree has won 2 with Neil Skupski and 2 with Joe Salisbury, so she's made quite the name for herself on the mixed doubles court.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I recognize her name more often from, because I think the first time I came across her was when she won Wimbledon.
I think that's probably when she hit mainstream tennis fans, because I wasn't too familiar with her until a few years ago when I started covering doubles more consistently. But she's got a great game, great net game. And this was interesting too. Danielle, went on and on about how great of a doubles player she is, and Danielle thinks that Desiree could be a top 100 singles player if she dedicated, if she wasn't, strictly dedicated to doubles.
I think we could probably say that was pretty much all the top doubles players. Let's be honest.
Yeah, definitely a lot of them.
What's the? Sure, I haven't checked it for a while, but like his the current sort of doubles top. Obviously, we mentioned some of the pairings. Like obviously, we saw Shibahara obviously was in that Charleston final with another partner. Are there any other kind of doubles names that we should be looking out for?
I think another team that we haven't mentioned yet, or 2 other teams, Gabby Dabrowski and Luisa Stefani. They just got back together at Indian Wells, and they have, obviously a very strong track record. I think they're a team that when they catch fire, they could certainly rival the Czechs if anyone could. And then Nicole Melikar Martinez and Ellen Perez are also a very strong established team. I've had a little bit of a slower start to the year, but they just made the semis in Miami. So I think they'll feel a lot more confident heading into the clay swing.
Okay. Another name that I've just has dawned on me as someone who's obviously good in singles and doubles is Ostapenko.
Oh yeah, that's true. She's never a dull moment watching her. Either Nadia, I think Nadia Kitchenok have had, or I can't remember which Kitchenok sister it is, but they've had a lot of success too, and are one of the more established teams at the top.
Yeah. So I that's always fun. I sometimes wonder, could Ostapenko end up winning a major in singles and doubles? She had the right partner, maybe.
Yeah, don't count her out. It depends on the week, though. Her game plan is never going to change. She's going to keep, hitting the ball as hard as she can, and some days it goes in, some days it doesn't.
Yeah, and sometimes she'll have a week where it goes in, or maybe once in a blue moon in her career, 2 weeks.
Yeah, never quite know with her.
Yeah. All right. I don't think either of us watched much of the other WTA tournament that happened in Bogota. It was 250, fairly weak field, to be honest. Won by Tatjana Maria, who was the defending champion, obviously last year's Wimbledon semi-finalist. She kind of needs to do that because she was in serious danger of dropping out the top 100 if she didn't. She probably would have still got automatic entry with some withdrawals into Roland Garros, but it would have made things a little bit tricky. So for her, from her perspective, great result. But yeah, I think obviously was the biggest name in that draw. The other name that probably got a little bit of a story out of it was the Brit, Fran Jones. And I'm not just saying that because I am a Brit.
I did see her, see a lot of Brits that I follow on Twitter talking, and not just Brits, but other people talking about her on Twitter and how cool her story is. So that was nice to see.
Yeah.
She made the semifinals, right?
Yeah, she got semifinals. I think she beat Laura Pigossi in the quarters, which I was not expecting because obviously Pigossi is defending finalist. I think, yeah, she and Maria had that final last year. But yeah, so for those who aren't aware, obviously Fran hasn't played for a while. She was ranked 800 and something before this tournament. Now she's jumped about 400 places or something like that in the rankings as a result of reaching these the Bogota semi-finals. She's, I mean, you can see she's missing due to developmental issues. She's missing a finger on both hands, but still able to play professional world-class tennis. And yeah,
it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. I think a lot of us Brits, even the Brits, first became aware of her when I think she played in Australian Open in 21 or 22. She beat a decent player in the run-up and then got a wild card in and put in a decent showing. And yeah, it's good to see having a good week in Bogota. And hopefully this will see her kind of getting back a bit further up the rankings.
Yeah, I remember hearing her name a couple of years ago. It was probably when she had that breakout Australian Open tournament and thinking how cool of a story that was. So it's good to see her, have another big tournament like that. Another name too that I wanted to mention from Bogota, even though I wasn't able to watch it since I was in Charleston, is Peyton Stearns, the American player who is a former standout at University of Texas. I got the chance to watch her a couple weeks ago at the ATX Open in Austin, Texas, and was really impressed just with her fight and her obviously her play on court, but just more of the competitive nature. And I think she was playing. Who was it? Not Heather Dart. I think she and Katie Balter had like a 3.5-hour match first round in Austin, and it was insane. I was there courtside for it. They finished after midnight, and I think Peyton is showing yet again that transitioning from playing in college in the US to the Pro Tour, you can have a successful path. You don't have to always necessarily go straight to the Pro Tour, but Peyton's already climbed inside the top 100. That was her first WTA final. So I'm excited to see where she goes, the clay and grass, and then also back, to the summer hard courts in the US.
Yeah, I think, we are definitely, look, she's a name that I've seen people talking about. Definitely one that I think we're kind of expecting to see some regular results from. We're not entirely sure where her ceiling could be yet, but I'm interested to see how her career develops. And as you're right, yet another sign of the success of the US college system, which we are seeing more and more stories of. Danielle Collins being one of them in the women's game. And
it seems a lot of Brits too on the doubles circuit. I know Neil Skupski and Joe Salisbury both played, and probably more, but those are two names that come to mind.
Cam Norrie.
Cam Norrie. Yeah. So a lot of British talent that we're seeing, in the pro singles and doubles circuit that were products of the college system as well.
I mean, there's one we're talking about at the minute that's like sort of seems to have taken the college route, even though she seems to be having some success already on the Pro Tour, is Diana Schneider.
Her story is really interesting.
So that's a name to keep an eye out. For. But yeah, Bogota was interesting. It's kind of nice that sort of the best friends of Jabeur and Maria both won titles this week.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably a fun sort of FaceTime call potentially that they had.
Yeah, that was a cool moment to share.
I obviously, it's difficult to know what to expect from. I think Tatjana Maria had a bit of a dream run to that Wimbledon semi-final. Got a little bit. Was fortunate she was able to flummox Ostapenko enough to put her in that position. But name to keep an eye out for over the clay season, maybe.
And I think just a good feel-good story too, being a mom on tour and being a good ambassador for WTA players who are like Vika and other players who are also Vera Zvonareva was another name in the doubles field at the Charleston Open. So it's good to see a contingent of mothers on tour who are not only able to make it work but still having really good results into their mid to late 30s.
Yeah, okay. Lots of enthusiasm for Dana Schneider here.
She had a good match with Paula Badosa at Charleston. I only got to catch a little bit of it, but there's been a lot of hype around Diana Schneider and what path she's going to take. Is she going to stick with the college system? Is she going to turn pro officially? It'll be interesting to see her path given her immediate success on tour at such a young age.
Yeah, I know. And let's face it, look, she came to our attention because she had that brilliant match with Maria Sakkari as well. So she's 18 and she's already testing the big names on the WTA tour right now. So yeah, but hey, if we're not going to discourage her from going to college, so I reckon it's probably a good time to see what our viewers are asking us. So I think most of the chat at the minute is currently discussing how we are seeing a potential power ranking or top 4 favorites for Roland Garros. I think it's a little bit too early to be kind of saying that, to be honest. But so I expect mine will probably evolve quite a bit over the next few weeks. But I'd say, I mean, if you were to pick 4 names off the top of your head, who you'd say are the main contenders for RG as of Charleston, say they moved Roland Garros to starting next Monday, where are we going with this one?
I mean, I think you've got to go Iga as the favorite, just given her, clay's, I think, her best surface. She went on a tear this time last year and won, every tournament she played in. I think Iga, and I kind of agree with you with Ons and Barbora Krejcikova as being maybe a 2 and 3. And then I would say Sabalenka and Pegula maybe as my 4 and 5.
Okay.
Or 4, and not necessarily in that order, but those are all names. I know, Pegula had a pretty solid clay season last year from what I remember as well. So those are names that stick out to me right now, but I'm sure there's probably some that I'm forgetting.
Yeah, do you know what? I would probably mention those names as well. Definitely, I would say the same thing. The top 3 of Świątek, and it's all going to be about Świątek, all about Świątek and how she is. She seems to be so much comfortable on clay compared to pretty much anyone else on tour, apart from maybe Krejcikova and Ons, depending on the day. So that would be those 2 along with Świątek. I mean, I think it's going to take a lot to stop her. Let's see how she does in Stuttgart, how she does in Rome, because obviously she loves Rome. She's 2-time defending champion there. And then my 4th, I mean, Pegula's a good shout. I think she is pretty strong on clay. Madrid finalist, Roland Garros quarterfinalist last year. So I can see why you put her in that.
I feel like Pegula is always a safe lock to at least get to the quarterfinals or semis. So I don't know if I see her winning it, but I think she'll, live up to her seeding or at least close to it.
I mean, I would, but my 4th would probably actually be Elena Rybakina, just because I think she's got a little bit more momentum from the start of the year and she's pretty comfortable on clay.
I couldn't remember what her past clay results are. So, I mean, of course, you have to throw in Rybakina's name too. That's a great point.
Roland Garros quarterfinalist. I'm pretty sure she's also won a 250 on clay in her career. Okay. So she's got pedigree to it. The chat seems
the best player in the I mean, she's the most informed player right now. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, 100%. 3 of the biggest finals out of 4 on the at the beginning of the year. You have to put her in the mix. So I would put her in there ahead of Sabalenka, because I think there's that question mark of how comfortable Sabalenka is on clay. She can do well on it, but she's not. It's not. There's a gap between her and a faster surface. Pegula obviously is like, how does she do when she comes across the really elite players on clay, like Swiatek, like Krejcikova. Probably also include Ons in there. I'm interested
to see how Coco Gauff does on clay. I mean, Gauff is obviously she was a finalist at Roland Garros last year. I think she usually does really well on the surface, but we know that the forehand struggles that she's had and just, bad matchup issues, especially against Iga. But I know that she's done well to get consistently deep at most tournaments that she plays in, but then she seems to, as of late, really be struggling against players ranked, in the top 10. I think I forget what it is, but her record against top 10 players right now is not very strong.
No, it's not. But hey, she's 19. It can get better, and it depends on who's around her as well. Ghost, your comment, and then I'm going to make another point on another player before we wrap up. But yeah, she does. She did well at Indian Wells. She did well at the Tokyo Olympics, which was a really slow hard court. As I said, I'm pretty sure she got WTA T50, and she beat Serena Williams on clay. And whilst clay was probably not Serena's favorite surface, she won 3 Roland Garros titles and was unbeatable for clay in 2013. So you can't say she couldn't play on clay or anything like that. So
same with Sharapova too.
Yeah, Sharapova. Yeah. So I definitely until results prove me otherwise, I'm putting Rebecca in the mix. I think the only that's a question for you, Hanlon, if you want to take this one from Ghost that's on the screen.
Oh yeah. That's a good question. I think there's two different sides of the story, because there have been some people that saying that Gauff and Pegula need to be smarter about their scheduling, and that they've, Pegula's already played an insane amount of matches so far in 2023. But, after talking with Pegula in press a little bit, I know for Pegula, it helps her a lot. She likes the practice. She likes just the match play and the pressure moments that you still get in doubles, the volleys, the net play. For Gauff, I'm not sure though. I've heard a lot of commentators speculate, does she need to take an extended time off on tour and really just work on the mechanics of her forehand and think about it more short-term pain, long-term gain type mentality. So, that maybe that would be a good recipe for her to just take a little bit of time off and really work on her forehand. But, right now it seems to be, even if she's struggling in singles and losing earlier than she would like to, Miami was a great example. I think sticking around in doubles and grabbing a title and getting some confidence there, hopefully that can help her singles game as well.
Yeah. And look, we've seen plenty of players over the years cut their teeth in doubles, and that's really accelerated their singles. Look at Ash Barty. She had some double success before starting winning singles. Krejcikova, Swiatek went pretty deep in the Roland Garros semi-finals of Roland Garros in 2020 when she won the singles title.
Either semis or was that when she played with Bethany Maddox-Sands? I think they made the finals.
We made the final. Yeah,
but they did really well.
And then I think the other name I've seen kind of in the chat that's out there as a potential contender maybe would be Caroline Garcia. I'm just going to mention her just because I've seen her name in the chat. Obviously, we talk about Roland Garros, we forget it is the French Open. They are going to be hyped to have a top 4, top 5 seed who is a genuine contender. Garcia can play well on clay. She's a Roland Garros doubles champion from last year, right?
The defending champion this year with Kristina Mladenovic. So it'll be interesting to see how she handles that pressure and the singles pressure, especially being a top seed.
Yeah. So that's why. Yeah. So I think Sport and Politics put Garcia in the mix there, and I think if Garcia turns around this kind of, if she can get over this barrier that she seems to be hitting at the minute, then for sure she's a contender, because we know what her top level looks like and we know it's fantastic. And then, okay, Ghost is asking if Beatrice Haddad-Maia a contender.
That's a good question. I'm not too familiar with her clay experience. She does. I mean, she has a huge upside in singles and doubles. So I think she's capable of beating anyone, that she walks on the court with. But I'm not as familiar with her past clay court experience. Maybe you are, though.
Not massively. I'm more familiar with her as a grass and a hard court player. She's not a bad clay court player by any means, but I don't see her as a contender. She's probably got the game for clay, but I wait to be convinced. I'm yet to be convinced. Let's see how results go over the next couple of weeks, but she's not one of the first people that comes to mind.
Wasn't it the grass season last year when she had that impressive run? Was on grass, right?
Great grass court run, and then first round exit at Wimbledon, and then
that's right. Oh yeah, I remember David Law. Yeah, that was funny.
I understand why he did that. She would potentially. I would have put her in the last 16, maybe a quarterfinal, but I probably got caught up in the hype a little bit. But that was a bit like Jabeur, Roland Garros last year. Great run in, didn't happen at the first round. All right, I think let's start. Someone tipped Tsitsipas to win the US Open last year. I think that was you, John. Don't do that. Right, I think we'll start wrapping it up there. Obviously, this week, WTA Tour is on a break whilst we play Billie Jean King Cup. I'm actually going to be going to GB versus France. I'll be seeing Caroline Garcia live and in person.
Be a good match too, I would think.
Yeah, well, Emma Raducanu's not playing, so she's going to be up against probably who'd be the top seed? Probably Harriet Dart.
Harriet Dart, yeah.
Which, Dart on a good day will make a match interesting.
Is it a home tie or away tie?
Home in Coventry in the UK.
Okay, so that should favor you guys.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it anyway. I'm not going in with massive expectations. I fully believe the Brit girls can do us proud, and I believe the American girls have got Austria at home this weekend.
They do, yeah, and I think that should be a pretty straightforward tie for them, and that I'm also interested to see, just given the depth of the U.S. Women right now. I really think that they're on paper should be the best team. Maybe outside of the Czechs, that might be a 50-50 matchup, but to me, there's no reason why the Americans shouldn't make the finals. And I don't know if they're on the same side of the draw as the Czech Republic, but I would put them up against anyone, just given their depth in singles and doubles right now.
Who's on the US team at the minute? Who's playing?
This weekend, they'll have Coco Gauff, Jessie Pegula, Danielle Collins, Katie McNally, and Sophia Kenin was a last-minute replacement for Madison Keys.
Oh, wow.
And I think just given that they have so many options in singles and doubles, so I would love to see them, square off against the Czech Republic, like a full U.S. squad versus a fully present Czech Republic squad in the finals, because that would be a great matchup in singles and doubles.
That would be so hard to call. I think it would be so difficult to how they would go. Yeah, proper.
I might give the Czechs the slight edge, but I think it would be a really good match.
Yeah, but so that would be sort of the ideal scenario wherever the finals is held. I'm just having a look at the British lineup for the Austria. I don't think they've got Julie Grabher, but I don't think they've got anyone else.
Yeah, I think she's the only top 100 player in the lineup.
And then for the tie that I'm going to, Caroline Garcia, Alizé Cornet, Clara Burrell, and Kristina Mladenovic are the French team. That's a really strong team.
That's a pretty tough team, yeah.
Yeah. Cornet, obviously, master disruptor. Kristina Mladenovic, is she a multiple major doubles champion?
She has 6 women's doubles majors.
Yeah. So she's going to be tough to beat. And then the British team is Heather Watson, who has been sort of a very highly experienced player, has a great day. Raducanu is not playing. Harriet Dart, Katie Bolter, they can be quite tough. And then Alicia Barnett and Olivia Nichols, who were a doubles team that kind of emerged last year.
They had a great year last year.
They kind of exploded onto the scene a little bit.
I think that's an upset worthy team, though. If they get the home crowd behind them, I could see them, because didn't the Brits have a really strong showing at the Billie Jean King Cup finals last year and beat some teams?
They ran it close. They did all right. They ran it close. I would imagine that they'd be playing Garcia Mladenovic. So that would be a top class doubles match.
And yeah, I don't think Mladenovic is in, as much form as she was, a few years ago at her peak. So, who knows? I wouldn't count the UK out.
No, no. Well, I think it'll be a fantastic atmosphere, and I'm looking forward to it greatly. When's the next tennis event that you're going to be attending, Hanlon?
Oh, that's a good question. I was a little sad leaving Charleston yesterday because this is, for American tennis fans and media, this is a tough time if you can't travel overseas, knowing that, we're sort of passing the baton to you guys. So I probably won't go to another tournament until the tour comes back to the US sometime in July or August. Maybe I'm only a few hours away from Atlanta. So I usually go to, it's an easy drive for me to go to the ATP 250 event at the Atlanta Open. I'd also like to go potentially to the US Open or maybe one of the tournaments in Canada. So we'll see.
Okay. See how everything takes you. See who lets you in with a press pass.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. See what the WTA calendar looks like this fall too. They still haven't announced that. So I'm eagerly waiting, I think, as we all are, to see, if they're going to China or going to be in the US or Europe or what that looks like.
Yeah, I know they need to sort that out, but understandably why I understand why they haven't. But yeah, well, and we'll be hopefully getting some on the ground reports from the Talking Tennis channel, not from myself, but from John. Obviously, hopefully people have enjoyed his Estoril updates. He'll be on the ground in Barcelona and Madrid, which will be
awesome.
Great to see him bringing sort of updates to us from there. And yeah, I'll be back with the WTA weekly check-ins. If not next week, then it will probably next week to look ahead to Stuttgart and then review Stuttgart and go on other weeks. But Hanlon, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for sharing insights, and it's been so much fun talking about doubles for once.
Yeah, it has. I like the mix of singles and doubles, but glad you guys invited me on and enjoyed talking with you.
All right. Well, thanks, Hanlon. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and we'll talk tennis with you soon. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.